Rob Dibble Show. Adam Giardino, Uconn Sports Network, in here with us today. Ben Darnell. Time to talk some Uconn fall sports with Adam. And you want to start with football?
Yeah, let's start with some football. I've been diving in. It's,
What day are we on? Was the 4th?
We got 27 days till
27,
kickoff.
Okay.
Yep, 11 o'clock a.m. pregame show. I'll be there. I'll be ready. 2 o'clock kickoff against Central Connecticut.
I want to play.
Well, you
ready to play?
You're in game shape.
I'm not ready yet,
You're in game shape?
Well, that lower back tear that I'm still dealing with, give me a couple more weeks on that. Couple of rice sessions, rest, ice.
Compression, elevation?
Yes.
How do you elevate a lower back?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to figure a little downward dog maybe,
There
some
you
of
go.
that. And I can give you about 15 snaps on Saturday.
Okay.
15.
As long as you don't tear a hammy.
As long as I don't tear a hammy.
You're good to go.
Before the game or after, during the game. I'll be good to go.
Go ahead.
Who do you like? Who do you like?
So, I feel like when I talk Uconn football with you, Ben, it's like a therapy session. It's just I should be on a leather couch somewhere. But it feels, I'm optimistic. I mean,
Should be.
I think it's the defense is going to be the question mark. But we had the same questions last year, especially at the middle linebacker position. And
Are you serious right now?
Tui
Everybody's
Famina
saying
Brown
this.
and Jaden McDonald came in and they did everything you could need to replace Jackson Mitchell. And Tui was the number 2 linebacker going into the year prior, so he elevated himself to be that real figure in the middle of the defense along with McDonald. But I think that's going to be a huge piece of this. The defensive line last year going into the season, we knew that would be an anchor, and this year there's a lot of question marks surrounding that. And it's just a cupboard full of guys who have really flashy transfer university names next to them, and it's. You're not going to hit on every guy out of the portal, but fortunately, this isn't basketball where you only get 1 or 2 guys coming in out of the portal. You got a whole bunch of guys, and who knows if these guys that are coming in from JUCOs and late bloomers that finally find a way to be impactful FBS guys. That happens in your 5th year of college football. You're working with man muscles against 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
That's what I like about it is that they are mostly the transfers that come over on defense are in the linebacker and defensive back position. Totally agree with you on defensive line. I'm wondering about getting at the quarterback. But those guys are all graduate seniors. They're 5-year guys. They're guys that have played football for a long period of time. And I love what Coach Brock, is it Matt?
Yeah, Matt Brock.
I love his X's and O's, that 5-3 or 3-5 or whatever he calls that thing, where he's got linebackers in all these other different positions. I just think that guy really knows how to maximize talent, and I think these guys coming in are just maybe behind something that they weren't going to get a lot of time either in Wisconsin, Penn State, or wherever we're getting these guys from. I'm excited to see what that happens with. My biggest question mark, which I think everyone's biggest question mark since David Pendell was not here anymore in a uniform for the Uconn Huskies, that quarterback position, man. What's going on with that quarterback position?
Here's my answer. Every single person at that media day last week, when we first got a chance to chat with some of these Uconn football players, asking about the offense, everyone, the first thing they did was smile. Like, they just know something we don't know. And you're bringing back Mel Brown, you're bringing back Cam Edwards, and you're getting back, but also from injury, Victor Rosso, who I'm sure is going to be super motivated to come on in. You got Skylar Bell, who's been the best receiver that UConn has had in a decade in his 1 year on campus so far, and you're bringing back a guy that could be, several years into his professional accounting career or something. I mean, Joe Fagnano's a 7th-year quarterback. That is a luxury to have at that position in college. And Jim Mora joked and said, we know he doesn't have an 8th year, so this is it. 7 years.
Yeah.
They were a little surprised when, I think about 2/3 of the way through the season, somebody had started to do the process and said, hey, Jim, Joe's got another year after this. And it just sort of sounded like one person discovered this and everybody sort of got on board and said, oh, that's really cool. We got a guy coming back for his 7th year. So the number, and again, I've been in the crunching numbers and trying to look at this every which way. A number I discovered that shocked me. 130 teams in college football. Pace of offense for UConn. Because they're talking about that going into this year, they want to run plays faster than we've ever seen UConn's offense run it, which I think is a real advantage in college football, especially when you have continuity like they will from year to year with these position players. UConn, I'm shocked to find out they were 41st in the country in fastest offense. So, I mean, there were 90 teams that ran plays slower than them, which when we think of UConn's offense, you don't think that. And so that's a really great starting point to think, okay, this team is going to be one of the 40 fastest offenses in the country. And if, again, just the way that they're kind of smiling, and it almost feels like they're going to be running plays as, I don't know, maybe one of the 25 fastest offense. They were just, the way the offense was talking, it just felt like we know something you don't know, and in a really good way.
Let me ask you about Alex Honig, this kid from Germany, 6'7". He's on this, Ben was talking about the freak list.
The freak list.
6'7", 270, 14% body fat. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak of nature. Can we get this guy the ball enough for him to do something with it?
Yeah, this is someone who 2 years ago at Georgia State fractured his leg and was out for the season. So he's obviously put time in the weight room. Last year, it was exciting just when he was able to get into the end zone. And I think opposite the other tight end, Louis Hansen, these two guys, I mean, Louis Hansen's a guy that was recruited from Massachusetts to Michigan. And last year, I think UConn finally decided and figured out how to utilize their tight ends and not utilize Louis Hansen as a safety valve, but really use him as a threat and get the ball in his hands. And I think Honig is going to have the exact same thing. And UConn coming out with two tight end sets. We haven't talked about Nick Evers last year as the de facto starting quarterback coming out of camp, the transfer from Wisconsin that UConn threw the most money at in the transfer portal and NIL last year. UConn can get really creative with how they run this offense. And you've got three running backs, you've got Skylar Bell, you've got a bunch of other unknown wide receivers, you've got two playmaking tight ends that can do stuff with the ball in their hands, and then you've got not only Joe Fagnano, but as we saw in the Fenway Bowl, they ran some two quarterback sets, and some of them were predictable where you line one quarterback out wide and you get them the ball and it's a double reverse, throw type situation. But there's a whole off season for them to tinker with this stuff. And, for Nick Evers, he had a 60-yard rushing game. He had a 75-yard rushing game, and he can throw the ball. And so maybe he's not your every play quarterback, but you can keep some stuff in your back pocket for a long time this season and bring it out and at just the right time where, I don't know, I just see week 2 against Syracuse, Ben. We've said it again and again. If they get past Syracuse, this is a team that's going to be very likely 6-0, very well could be 6-0, and receiving votes in the top 25 for the first time in a long time in its program's history.
You can see him walking around the sidelines during football games for the Uconn Sports Network. Adam Giardino. We've covered defense, we've covered offense, but there are three things to win a football game, and that's special teams, special teams.
We know you love kickers.
Well, before I get to him, I did see Mel Brown on the Jet watch list. Mel Brown looks like he's going to be returning for us, and that's why he's on that list. Not only a great running back that's so shifty, but can't wait for him to get the ball in his hands in some open space. But yes, Chris Freeman on the Lou Groza watch list. Kickers, Dibs. You know me, man. You can find him on a soccer field anywhere. What sets this kid apart from any other soccer player that I can pick from the Hartford Athletic to do the job?
I think that Freeman, the most impressive thing for me was what he did last year in terms of struggling tremendously out of the gate. And he missed his first 3 attempts last year with a new program and then went on to make 20 of his last 23. And I think that mental toughness for a kid is super, super important in that position. And you couldn't, here you come in from Indiana, and especially, remember, he came as a transfer from Indiana, and so he hadn't made a kick, and his team, his former program, is suddenly 3-0 and on their way to the best season ever. And it's September 21st.
Wow.
He's a month into his UConn career, and he's 0 for 3, and his team's 3-0. And he's just, I can't imagine where his brain was at that point of the season.
And not to jump in here, he would go on to be the 3rd highest point getter in school history.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I mean, so I really, I think the mental, just the ability to just be quiet on the sideline and just stay focused. And again, you mentioned I'm on the sideline, and so there was just you wouldn't know he was there if you didn't know he was there. And I think that's what you want out of a kicker. Like
you didn't go over and tap him on the butt and go, "Hey, you're going to be okay, Freeman."
No, you stay silent until it's your time to do things, and then when you do it, you do it.
He
and
was 49. He was 49 for 49 and
extra points.
Extra points.
Yeah, and then just circling back to Mel Brown, I'm going to be really interested to see who they put in at punt return. I don't know about you, but I don't love having one of your valuable skill players.
I don't either.
And they used TJ Sheffield last year for all of their punt returns.
Chef was great, though. Chef caught the ball. That's the most underrated thing about a punt returner is catching the ball. And as much as I want Mel out there, and I agree with you, that's risque as far as his load in the backfield. I just want a guy that can catch the ball, man.
Yeah. But I did see 2 or 3 cheap shots where our guys were hit before they even got close to catching the ball. There's some dirty, what's out there that are smoking our guys.
Right. And I just don't love the idea that you're having, a really valuable running back potentially returning punts. Returning kickoffs, absolutely. Like he can, you can navigate that and, it's a hit, it's a tackle, but it's just a different animal when you're talking about looking straight up into the air, trying to make a catch, navigate bodies, and not get killed at the same time. So I'm hopeful that there's somebody we don't know about that's going to be taking those reps from TJ Sheffield. But yeah, Ben, you're right. I mean, it's not as easy as, we've got this kind of undersized future wide receiver who's 5'10", 5'9". Throw him out there. No, you've got to catch that football and make decisions at a speed that maybe you're not used to at the high school level. So there's a fine balance. Again, I hope if it's Mel Brown returning kicks, I mean, obviously everybody in the program knows what they're doing, returning punts, that is. But to me, it's just when I would see TJ Sheffield go out there, it just takes one hit and suddenly you're like, well, that, maybe we didn't need to have him exposed in that situation, but they survived a whole season. TJ stayed healthy and he did a great job, as good a job as anybody in a long time returning punts for the Huskies.
How do we integrate all these new guys that are coming in, even the transfer portal guys, onto the team that played last year? And the guys that are already, they were 9-4. There's so much expected of them. That's kind of a lot of pressure if I'm a freshman coming in.
There is, and it's even better. The response was that, it almost felt as if the returners, so we talked to Skylar Bell and Joe Fagnano, and it almost felt like there was pressure off of them because it wasn't the same team trying to run it back. There were so many new faces that they were so concerned about getting up to speed. Where if you return 90% of your roster, it's okay. You've got that number in front of you. You've got we won 9 games last year. I guess we got to win 10 this year. And they're going to be going into week 1 against Central Connecticut, just trying to play their best football game. I think we're at the point in Uconn's trajectory under Jim Mora where you can just say, okay, the end of the Randy Edsall 2.0, you were worried that you wouldn't win those games, and they didn't against Holy Cross, and at other points they were really, against Yale they struggled. So I think at this point, this game against Central Connecticut is a great way to start the season. It very likely will be and should be a win. And it's last year under Matt Brock, where you give up 50 points to Maryland and you just sort of go, they just got punched in the mouth.
I hated that game.
But to be able to put that in the rearview mirror really says something about last year's group. And I think they'll be able to start out on the right foot against Central Connecticut. They'll get that win, whether it's pretty or not. They'll know what they need to work on before that big second game of the season up at Syracuse.
Teach us about the other fall sports. One thing I've learned over the years is this field hockey team has got national titles galore, just like most of the programs over there on Storrs' campus.
Field hockey capital of the world.
Is that what it says on the west side?
Yeah, that's probably what it says on the west
Coming down
side.
from Springfield, yeah.
So are they going to win a national championship? It's been so long. 2017 was their last one. Oh, what a drought.
Well, 2 years ago, they had their worst season in the 50 years of the program's history. Last year, they rebounded in such a good way where they were one of the 4 teams that hosted a regional for the NCAA tournament. So this field hockey team, unfortunately, if you look at the roster, they had their 3 best players in terms of point production. Yul Sauer, Sophie Persch, those were the top 2, but then you're also missing Isabel Suiters, who was a great midfielder for them. Those 3 international freshmen, they went back home not because they were homesick. they went back home because they got signed professional contracts. So this isn't something that's a new wrinkle where usually you bring in
Coco Dibble.
Did not know there was pro field hockey.
Yeah.
Netherlands, instead of looking at Salve Regina, she should be looking at The Hague.
There you go.
So that's Netherlands, Germany, England, they're professional leagues over there.
Damn.
So those three women are, sophomore college age, and they are playing professionally. So it's going to be a bit of a reload for a team, and it's hard to replace, Pershk and Sauer, 13 goals apiece. Nobody else on the team had more than 9. So those were the 2 highest scoring pieces. So you got to replace a whole lot of offense, and that was the biggest turnaround from year over year. But it's also just as exciting on the soccer pitch. I mean, the men's soccer
That's what I was going to say. My favorite sport's soccer, man. What's going on?
The men's soccer, the big question mark is in goal. You had Max Kirkfleet, who played well enough. He played every second in net for them last year. He went off and signed a professional contract as well after 1 year with Uconn.
Man, look at these Huskies.
Yeah, so I mean, he had a great season. They bring in a guy in Kyle Durham who was on the team last year, had played previously for Pitt, which is an up-and-coming ACC program. They're a national power, and I say up-and-coming relative to the last 10 years, but the last few years they've been a top 10 program. And so he had a great season 2 years ago with the Panthers as an understudy. Last year he was an understudy to Kirkfleet, so he is somebody who is ready to take over as the favorite in the clubhouse to be the goalkeeper. And then it's just a matter of finding a way to replace Scott Testori, the homegrown kid from Connecticut, who's been he was from Hand High School, and it was just such an impressive player all 4 years with UConn. So he'll be a big loss, but there's so many ways to recruit in soccer that will be we really won't know much until the ball is down and you see the team in action. And then on the women's side, they're coming off the second round heartbreaking loss to Stanford last year in the NCAA tournament, but they got back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in a long time, and they bring in some really interesting pieces. They also have questions to answer at the goalkeeping position. Ava Yamas is a freshman from Tennessee, but she spent her high school career at IMG Academy, which for any sport, that's a really good sign.
Yes,
so she is a highly thought of recruit and is an odds-on favorite to be a true freshman starting goalie for them in the fall. So that's going to be a major storyline to watch. And also,
don't they all have new facilities too?
Yeah,
they're new soccer
all working.
facility.
They're all working with the same state. Yeah, I mean, and it's new within the last 5 years.
Right.
So the freshmen, the recruits that are coming in are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
I remember the old one because my sister went there in the 70s. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's nice, man.
Yeah,
the
it's
one
gorgeous.
place I
These
got to
kids are
get
so
to,
spoiled.
I haven't gotten to yet, is the new women's volleyball facility that they turned the Friedrichs Ice Forum into.
Yep.
Now, I'm looking at the volleyball schedule, and this is my favorite, man. If I could pick one play-by-play sport to do, it would be women's college volleyball.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like a little bit of a cupcake non-conference there, Giardino. I understand the Northeast has its limits. Is that something like baseball has to deal with as far as like going and getting top 25 competitors as far as non-conference goes for volleyball?
There are programs around the country that you play tournaments on weekends. So especially in the non-conference, UConn plays the Bearcat Classic, and that's up in Binghamton. Then they bring teams in for the UConn Challenge the weekend after that. So that's South Dakota, that's Colgate, it's Ball State. So you just try to ramp up as many opponents as possible within those weekends. But yeah, you're right. Usually if you get 4 teams in, there's usually one that's pretty good, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. And if you remember to last year, this is a UConn volleyball program that made huge strides, and they made it to the third round of the National Invitational Volleyball Championship, making it all the way to the quarterfinals against St. John's. So this is kind of the NIT of volleyball.
Right.
They made the Big East Championship, which was great, but they also had a great non-conference schedule. They were 14-2 in non-conference play. They were one of the last 10 undefeated teams in the country heading into their Big East Conference opener against Marquette.
Could be the scenario this year.
Yeah, they were 12-0 heading into that match against Marquette, which they lost. So this is a volleyball program that when you look at the geography of the country, Marquette and Creighton are going to make the NCAA tournament every time in that sport. And Creighton's a powerhouse. They're going through a coaching change, so that'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. They're an Elite Eight caliber program, but they're going to have to kind of recalibrate. I think with the new facility that you're excited about, Ben, that this UConn volleyball team, just like every program that seems to be on campus, they can get where they need to go. And maybe for now you settle at being the third best program in the conference. But if you are entrenched as the third best program in the conference, that means you're in the discussion with a Creighton, a Marquette, to knock them off every once in a while. And you start talking about being an NCAA tournament team for volleyball. It's a 64-team field. I mean, it's a massive sport, even if we're not as familiar with it in the Northeast. So, it's a program that Ellen Herman Kimball at the helm of she's a younger coach that I think really inspires a lot from her athletes. And, being a third best team in the Big East is not a bad short-term goal. It's what they were last year. And if they can make that kind of their home, being number 3 at the moment for the next couple of years, and keep building up the brand, that's not a bad place to be.
Adam Giardino, UConn Sports Network, thank you so much for getting us ready for the fall sports program. We'll do Dibbles and Bits when we come back on the Rob Dibbles Show with Adam, Ben, and Rob. We'll be right back.